We are defending our country. They are defending the Epstein class. That makes a difference.
Regime change, transforming Iran into a failed state, are simply making Israel a regional hegemon. What is actually behind the recent conflict with Iran? Why does the US want to fight Israel's war? And what is the role of the Gulf states in this conflict against Iran? Why do they tend to make Israel strong by weakening Iran? And what could be the consequences of their actions? What Iran is actually defending in this war against the US and against Israel? And if Iran falls, who will be the next? Can this war escalate into something big, something even more catastrophic? These are some of the questions that we wanted to understand from Foad Izadi, who is a professor at University of Tehran.
Sir, first of all, I would like to understand the objectives of the current conflict from the standpoint of US and Israel as far as you, being an Iranian, are concerned. Is it to install those people in power who are more US and Israel friendly, or is it simply to transform Iran into a failed state, or is it to just make Israel a hegemon?
They want to disintegrate Iran. They want to balkanize Iran. And in order to do that, they need to overthrow the Iranian government. And this is what they want to do. An agreement was at reach. We had the Omani foreign minister going to Washington. I don't know if you saw the interview he had with CBS News. It's available in YouTube. He was saying that he can have an agreement within 24 hours, his words. And he was saying that Iran is available to give concessions now that Iran could not give in 2015. He was basically begging Trump not to start a war. And Trump attacked Iran less than 24 hours after that interview, which is understandable because if you want to overthrow a government, you don't want to have a diplomatic solution or some agreement with that government. So this is what they want to do. They attacked hospitals. They have been attacking schools. We lost 165 little girls a couple of days ago when their school, primary school, was attacked. We are dealing with the Epstein class. They like to rape little American girls and they like to bomb and kill little Iranian girls.
There is now this argument in the air, and it is a very much believed argument that the war cannot serve the interest of the US. It actually go against the interest of the US, and the US is going into this war only because of the influence of Benjamin Netanyahu. It is he who is influencing the US to go against Iran into a war in this way. So, do you believe in this argument that the war cannot benefit the US in any sense of the word, and it is actually against the interest of the US?
I agree. Not only there is no interest for US, it's detrimental to US. It's against US interest to engage in a war with Iran. Netanyahu has been interested in attacking Iran for many years. Trump was foolish enough to provide American soldiers to the prime minister of a foreign country to engage in this type of reckless genocidal act. And Trump was saying that I want to do America first, but he's doing Israel first.
One of the questions that personally haunts me and that I am incapable of understanding, it is the role of the Gulf states. Do you believe that Israel would have succeeded in doing what it is so far doing without the implicit or explicit support of these Gulf states?
You know, Iran has been trying to improve relations with these countries. Iran actually has good relations with Qatar, Oman, and they had some level of rapprochement with Saudi Arabia. Iran is attacking US bases in these countries. Iran is not attacking these countries, but Iran needs to make sure that the US pays a high enough price for this illegal war. Otherwise, US will kill the next Iranian leader. They need to realize that this is not going to work out. So Iran is hitting these American bases and other installations that house American soldiers. For example, they evacuated some of the bases. They moved the soldiers into hotels that were evacuated. The civilian guests were put in other places, and the whole hotel is given to the US Army. And that becomes legitimate military target or CIA headquarters in these countries. They're located in office areas inside cities, but they are legitimate military targets because CIA is providing the information to US military when they want to hit places. We have had some of these countries shooting down Iranian drones, and when they shoot down, the debris falls somewhere. That's not, Iran cannot control that. So we have seen this damage in other places. An option they have is don't shoot the drones so they can hit their targets.
Yeah. So would you say that there was like Iran was trying to establish some good relations with these Gulf states, but there was also a report from Washington Post, and I think you have definitely read the report, which said that there was some push from MBS to for this war. Like, so do you believe in this theory that there was actually MBS who wanted this war also against Iran?
We don't know. We know that the Saudi government was very hostile towards Iran in the past. They have some level of reapproachment, at least in the surface. So we don't know if these reports are accurate. We know that these countries promise that their airspace, for example, will not be used against Iran. And we know Kuwait did not keep that promise because they said they shut down planes. So why would American planes be in Kuwaiti airspace? That means that's a problem. So overall, Iran wants to keep good relations with these countries. The hope we have is that they realize that Iran is fighting for Iran and Iran is fighting for the neighborhood. Because if Netanyahu gets away with balkanizing Iran, he has said that he's interested in Greater Israel. Greater Israel means territory taken from Saudi Arabia and many other countries, Egypt, Jordan. So it's in the interest of these countries to not do what Netanyahu wants them to do. Netanyahu has managed to get American soldiers for his war against Iran. He wants to get Saudi soldiers and Kuwaiti soldiers and soldiers from these other countries to fight for him. And it would be not wise for these countries to fall for that trap. In a war zone, there are difficulties. We unfortunately live in a war zone, a war that was started by US and Israel, not Iran. And bad things happen in a war zone. There may be some damage to these countries. They may experience some pain, but the pain of Israeli domination of this part of the world is going to be much greater for these countries. If they manage to get away with what they want to do, the next country they will target is going to be Turkey. The second country is going to be Pakistan. You saw the trip of Modi going to Israel. Not a good sign. They're cooperating with Israelis to force, to pressure Pakistan. Now, imagine if they can get away with murder in Iran. And then these Persian Gulf countries will be next. They want to dominate this part of the world. They're interested in Greater Israel. the hope that Iranian leaders have is that these people realize what's going on and not fall in the trap that Netanyahu has created. We have had American journalist Tucker Carlson a couple of days ago saying that, reporting that in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they have arrested Mossad agents that were planning to bomb places in these countries. Why would Mossad agents want to do that? Because they want to blame Iran for it.
Yes.
So they need to be careful to not to, Iran doesn't expect these countries to fight against Israel. That's asking too much. But not fighting for Israel is something that Iran expects.
There is this idea that actually Saudi Arabia feels that Iran is far more greater threat to its survival or its existence than Israel. And as you said, that Israel wants to establish a greater Israel, which also involves the territory of Saudi Arabia. So I don't understand, like, why are they playing into the hands of Israel? Like, if Iran is weakened, as you said, perhaps they would be next. And if Iran is weakened, then Israel would be, I suppose, a sort of regional hegemon in this region, then it would become so powerful and it would not go in the interest of Saudi Arabia, as you said. So, why they are playing this game, which is so brutal and which is so like threatening to them also?
I don't know. You maybe want to talk to some Saudi to get an answer. I don't think it's logical for them to do what Israelis want.
So, like, I just wanted to understand, like, if there is something special about Iran that these Gulf states cannot tolerate. Like, is it like the hostility towards Iran is for some ideological reasons?
You should ask them. Iran wants to have good relations with these countries. That's the hope Iran has. But
Mhm.
if they're going to do that or not, that's up to them.
You said that Iran wanted these countries, these Gulf states, to experience some pain for hosting these US military bases, and
I,
there
I
is
didn't say that. I didn't say that. I
Mhm.
said that we are in a war zone now, a war that was started by Israel and US, not Iran. And when you are in a war zone, you may experience pain because missiles fly around. The hope that Iran has is that these countries realize that this pain is far lesser than the pain of having Israel dominate this region. That's what I
Okay,
said.
so do you like accept this idea that there is now this war, a regional war, not just limited to United States, Israel, and Iran? Like,
This is what Iran said. Iranian leaders said that if Iran is attacked, it's going to be regional war. What they mean by that is that they're going to hit American bases, American interest, Israeli interest in this region. That's what regional war means for Iranian leaders.
I was listening to a professor who said that the way this war is actually going, it could end up in something really bad because these Gulf states are threatened. Their very survival is now at stake. The idea that Dubai is a safe place for investment and these sorts of things, that idea could not be now sustained. The other Gulf states are also threatened, and also Europe might also come into this war. So you think that this idea does not actually works and it is not true. This will not happen.
Bad things happen when wars start. The best thing would be for US and Israel to realize they made a mistake, realize they're not going to be able to change Iran's government, and stop attacking Iran. And if they do that, then things gradually will go back to normal.
Okay, so I would like now to go to the first point, which is the balkanization of Iran. As you said, why would they want to balkanize Iran? Is it just for the sake of creating a greater Israel?
That is one reason. The other reason is that they want to dominate this part of the world. Iran's government is the outcome of the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And if you don't want to have an Islamic Republic around if you want to dominate this region. Iran is number one in terms of oil and gas. Iran is the only country that has borders with the oil and gas region in the Persian Gulf, and oil and gas region in Central Asia. So they're interested in Iran's oil. Trump likes oil. That's why he wants to take over oil in Venezuela. And he likes Israel. So he wants to make sure that Israel dominates this region. This is why they want to get rid of Iran, which is a foolish thing. Iran has a history of 7,000 years. Iran is a very old civilization. Invaders and aggressors have come and gone. Iran will survive the Epstein class. The Epstein class will destroy United States much earlier than they can do any damage to Iran.
As you said that Iran is resource enriched, and there are all these kind of benefits that the US could get from weakening Iran. Now, don't you see a possibility that some other powers, for example, China and Russia, could also intervene because US is consistently targeting those countries which are China allied, like which are allied with China. So if this be the situation, don't you see a possibility that those countries might also intervene and this war could really turn into something big?
The Chinese government realizes that US and Israel taking over Iran is not good for China. China gets more than 50% of its energy from the Persian Gulf. And right now, the US doesn't put a lot of pressure on countries like Saudi Arabia or UAE when they want to sell oil to China. But the reason is that would increase the value of Iranian oil. They don't want to do that. But if they can take over Iran, then the energy from the Persian Gulf would be an asset for the United States to put pressure on China. It would be a leverage that the U.S. government doesn't have right now. So it's the story is bigger than Iran. Similar thing to Russia. They want to put pressure on Russia from its southern borders, the same way they are putting pressure on Russia on its western borders. So Iran is fighting for Iran. Iran is fighting for the neighborhood. Iran is fighting for the civilized world. That's why we need people's solidarity all over the world, people's sympathy, people's understanding. If Trump is successful with Iran, he would want to do the same thing with Canada, take over Greenland. And so European leaders shouldn't be foolish in terms of being happy with what the US is doing in this part of the world, because if Trump is successful with regard to Iran, they're going to be under more pressure to do what Trump wants them to do, which is not something that's in line with European interests.
Don't you believe that like people do realize but their governments don't, like they are still soft on the US as far as I see, and they cannot criticize the governments openly about what it is doing in Iran. Take for example the case of Pakistan.
The public understands what's going on. The governments also understand. I think sometimes they're under US pressure not to say the right thing or do the right thing. But things are not very complicated. On one side, you have a genocidal group, and then the other side, you have a country that wants to live independently. This is not very complicated to understand.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask about now is about Iran. There is now this idea. I have heard some Iranian people who are saying that Iran was already preparing for this war, and Iran is prepared for a long war. So what could that mean from the standpoint of Iran, that Iran is prepared for a long war? And as you know, that Trump and these people believe that this war will not become an endless war, and there will not be any prolonged war. And the Iranians are saying that they are prepared for a long war. So what does this long war mean from the standpoint of Iran?
Iran was not interested in war, did not want to see this happen. Iran wants to end this war as soon as possible. They started it, and as long as they are continuing to attack Iranian hospitals and schools and other places, the war will continue. Iran has to respond. What Iran has in its advantage is the fact that Iran is defending the country. Iranian soldiers are fighting for Iran. American soldiers are fighting for Israel. Everybody knows who Trump is. Uh, people in the U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, Air Force, they know who Trump is. They know that this is not in line with American interest. I'm sure many of them are upset that they're under the leadership of a foreign uh, politician, a corrupt politician. The level of Netanyahu's corruption is so extensive that even the Israeli president is not willing to pardon him for all his different cases that he has. So overall, Iran will become successful. I'm very optimistic about the future. US and Israel will not be able to achieve their goals. Iran will survive.
So, something funny could also come in these critical times. I do watch these news and interviews, and quite often I see the comment that the U.S. is having the worst president in its history, and that is Benjamin Netanyahu. You said that Iran will actually survive this attack, and Iran will defeat somehow these America and Israel attacks. There was also an argument that I heard that this could be a very critical time for American hegemony also. Like this war could be a war that would put an end to the American hegemony. So do you believe in this argument?
Yes, America is a country in decline. How do we know that? They elected someone like Trump as president. They normally elect war criminals, but the level of criminality of Trump is unprecedented in American history. Um, and the United States thinks that they can stop that decline process by taking over Middle Eastern oil and gas, which may be true. The only problem is that they're not going to be able to do it because they're not going to be able to achieve their goals with regard to Iran.
So these are my last questions from you. Uh, we have seen, and as you have also said, that Iran was quite prepared for a negotiation. Iran does not want any war, as you said. Now the leadership has been killed, like Khomeini is assassinated. Do you feel that the stakes for negotiations are getting higher and higher? And as these attacks are mounting, as people who are in leadership position they are killed, the negotiation is actually becoming more difficult.
U.S. is not interested in negotiations because they wouldn't have bombed Iran in the middle of negotiations 2 times. They want to overthrow the Iranian government. They don't do negotiations with the government that they want to overthrow. So negotiation is not a subject that is at stake right now.
So
U.S. is
how
not interested.
so how you see the war could like possibly end if not in negotiation?
They're going to realize that they have failed, and Trump is going to declare victory and then go off to some other criminal project. That's how it's going to end. By these people realizing that this is a failed policy.
Okay, so this is my last question. Do you see like the militarily capability of Iran to withstand these attacks for a long time?
You know, Iran is facing 2 nuclear
Yes.
regimes. U.S. spends 100 times more on its military than Iran does. And it's not easy for Iran to engage in these 2 criminal regimes. But as I said, since Iran is fighting for Iran, Iranian soldiers are fighting for Iran, and US soldiers are fighting for Israel, then there is an advantage there. We don't have more airplanes than US does, but we are defending our country, uh, and they are defending the Epstein class. That makes a difference.
Yeah. So I should say thank you so much, sir. You took this time.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
sir. Thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
time.
خدا حافظ.
Khuda Hafiz.